Hello and happy holidays. If you're a patron, whether you're free or paid, then you're getting a notification about this on Christmas Eve. If you are watching this on YouTube, then you wouldn't have access to it until Monday night at 9 p.m. Our patrons always get everything that we do early and ad-free, but this time I wanted to celebrate even our free patrons. If you join our Patreon, you always allow us to message you with updates on things like scheduling, availability of our live events, or to poll you with things about what we might be doing in the future. So we love even our free patrons. If you're not in a position to support the show financially, you can still help us out by joining there. And I wanted to say thank you with this early episode, even for the free patrons, not just the paid. What is this episode and where is Ashley? Well, she's under the weather today, and I realized that we had not recorded an actual intro to this, so I wanted to do so and give it some framing. We had a feature episode for all of our Children of the Millenia patrons. That's $10 or higher a month, and there are annual plans actually that make it a little bit cheaper than that, but that's the next highest level of our patrons. And for folks that support us at that level, if you joined before by Black Friday, I wanted to offer them something special. So they were going to be on the show. It turns out that the conversation just unspooled, and we talked about a lot with a lot of people. And so I'm going to do my best to sort of string those conversations all together by topic. So you'll see me or maybe Ashley queue up a question, and then you'll probably see several people answer it. I'm going to try to maybe even put their names on the screen, but bear with me because this is a lot of footage to get through. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did, though. I love our Coven that we've built here. And it's not just the show, it's all of you. It's the conversations we have on Patreon. It's the conversations we have in the comments on YouTube. It's the conversations we have in our Facebook group, especially. It's the relationships that we've now built in person with those of you who came to visit us in New Orleans Halloween 2025. And I cannot wait to add more names and more faces to that list from 2026 and 2027. We've got events coming up in both. You can find info at articulatecoven.com/events. All right. Happy holidays to everybody. It was like 9 years ago now. Anne got the rights back to the show to make a show out of her work. And I said, it's gotta be me. I gotta make a podcast about this. And I stood up on Facebook and said, hey, does anybody else want to do it? And Ashley jumped in with both feet and said, it's me. I want to do it. It is a great joy in my life that we're still doing this. It makes me very, very happy. And so I hope it makes you very happy too. Happy holidays, everybody.
Welcome to the Articulate Coven, the original, unofficial fan podcast and community for Anne Rice's Immortal universe, the Vampire Chronicles, Lives of the Mayfair Witches, and the Immortal Universe TV series from AMC and AMC+. The Articulate Coven is Ashley and Joel, but it's supported by listeners just like you. Find out more at articulatecoven.com/join.
I used to do a bunch of podcasts all the time, and my husband was like, so are you podcasting again? Because like a few years ago, I was like, never again. I'm over it.
I'm over
That's
it.
funny.
I was like, this is different.
Yeah, this is allowed.
You know that scene in Godfather 3 that everybody quotes even though they don't like the movie? Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Yeah, that's what
exactly
podcasting will do to you. I have spent so much time today looking at videos about this new piece of technology that I am about to get for video switching, because now apparently I'm thinking about live streaming and live performances and how can I get multiple camera angles in one place and what else could we do with this nonsense? I'm a loony. Also, my Dark Shadows recordings are failing for some reason, and I'm blaming it on Chrome, and so this new video device is going to fix that too.
Well, that's good.
Anyway, yes, I spent a lot of time looking at a new toy today that is apparently on its way to me. So,
I love it.
I love
hello.
toys.
Good. Congratulations. Hi.
It's not time to talk about toys. It's time to talk about our lovely patrons. Jolie, welcome to the show.
Hi. I love
so
you
happy to
guys.
see
I'm
you.
so fucking happy to be here. I can't even tell you. I was so sad that we missed out on New Orleans, and we'll have to miss
Oh.
out next year too. My son is in marching band, and so
Oh, yep,
it's
that's crazy
high
season.
season during right around that time, and we're like super supportive, involved parents. You and Joel, we've talked about that.
It's
So
good work.
Yeah.
Good for you.
yeah, yeah. And I love all of the things. So I was in show choir, so I'm like, yes, find
Oh,
your
yeah.
people,
Yep.
perform, do it.
Find your people for fucking real, man. That's so
100%.
important. It's
Yeah.
one of the that will get you through life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As this episode releases, this will be public information. So, on the off chance that someone from the local community theater listens to my podcast, it's okay that I say this. Both my girls have been cast in the next show. My
Yay!
younger twin, Nola, was cast in a previous one, but then she had sat out the current show. They were doing Christmas Carol right now, but they're doing Stinky Cheese Man, apparently.
Oh. I actually saw a post about that today.
Did you really? That's funny.
I don't know why
I
was getting a like community theater of Ruston like in my news feed. That's hilarious.
But both the girls got cast, and so we were
That's awesome.
looking at the weekend. It's like the same weekend that I've got a shoot for a client coming up. Both the girls are going to do like 3 shows or 4 shows that weekend. And so we were like, boy, it's going to be
we're going to
a really busy March.
Yeah.
Then we're trying to go to St.
work.
Louis, I think. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
But don't you have like 10 kids?
I have too many. I have too many kids for someone who is neither Mormon nor Catholic. It is absolutely true.
To be fair, two came. You got a twofer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's how they get you. Okay. My oldest son tried to get his siblings to agree last night to a rule that none of them would have more than 3 children. 3 children is your max. Nobody actually breaks the 4 barrier. And my younger son pointed out very accurately, what happens if we have twins? And I'm like, that's how they got me, kiddo.
That's how they
got me.
That's how you're here.
That's how they get you.
Okay. All right.
We do not have twins in my family, and I am.
None in my
I'm child free
family
regardless, but I #blessed.
Listen, twins don't run in my family anywhere close. Like you got to go way back before you get it. And what I discovered is there are all sorts of processes that happen naturally in the human body at certain times in your life that make it much more likely suddenly to have twins. It's not it doesn't have to run in your family is my point. So be careful with that stuff.
What? Okay, well, I'm out of childbearing age, so that's totally fine. I'm fine.
Women after 30 throw off multiple eggs at a much higher level statistically than they do otherwise.
We're trying to clean out the fridge is what we're doing. We're like,
it's literally what happens.
These eggs are bad. Get rid of them.
Flush it out.
Flush it out.
And again, nobody asked for like a sex ed lesson on Articulate Coven, but here we go. We're not doing a political rant this week, I don't think. So here we go.
You know what?
It's genuinely, if you have high fertility, which apparently I did, if it's very likely to have a multiple birth after 30.
Congratulations.
There you go.
Good work.
So
good work.
Yeah,
team.
it's not like I'm good.
I'm
good.
Listen.
Don't brush your shoulders off.
It did make me feel like a little, I've accomplished my goal. I had an economist once pat me on the back and tell me I did a good job at replacing myself in society since I have 4 children. For our next patron feature, it is time to discuss Derek Lord. Derek, how are you doing? And welcome to the show.
I'm doing well.
I love your
Thanks,
shirt.
man.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful artist that made that. It's a real piece of fashion statement for you. I appreciate you repping the brand, brother.
It was so wild to see people walking towards me in New Orleans with those shirts on. It was really surreal and insane.
It is genuinely a unique thing to be out and about with our peoples.
Oh.
Yeah. I try to take it out and wear it in the wild so that spread the message and
yes.
Yeah, one of the people that was in the group that came into the Coven this week, I brought in. So,
Oh, nice. Look at
All
you.
right, we'll give you your recruiter cut.
I was going to say, yeah, what happens is you've risen one step higher in the pyramid, Derek. So we'll talk to you about the bonuses that you're now eligible for.
And if you have any limiting beliefs, we'll help you work through those. But you
Sounds
have
good.
to have sex with Joel.
Okay, I'm down.
No, we walk across the coals at the end of the weekend, Ashley. It's
I really
fine.
took it to a Nexium place. Sorry about that, Joel.
No, you're good. Now, welcome to the show, patron child of the Millenia, Natalie. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
And let me bring Patrick on. Patrick.
Patrick!
Hello. How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. First
You
of all,
look
I'm
so
very excited.
handsome.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to join your podcast polyamory experiment that you guys have going on here. And I can say from past experience, when you open up your relationship, it can be a really beautiful thing until it goes horribly wrong. And then you end up in therapy, right?
Yeah.
But we'll talk
I will
about
tell
that
you all.
over green drinks. How about that?
I
I was about to say, I don't know how to talk to you without a green drink in my hand.
I'm a very needy person, and I have long ago decided that open relationships will not work for me because there is not enough spotlight to be shared, as a matter of fact, actually.
No.
So
Sure.
How can you wait on two people hand and foot simultaneously, Brett? I don't know.
Well, we can't all be Lestat, right?
Indeed.
Exactly.
One of our, I think maybe the only children of the Millenia that's international, but definitely the first one that we've talked to on this Patron Feature episode anyway. Jane, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Yeah, I'm good.
I'm so excited to have you on. I sent out, we scheduled a Tuesday night and a Thursday night, and I knew that wasn't going to work for everybody, but you messaged specifically and you're like, no harm, no foul. I know I'm over here in the middle of the night, but I can't make it to those 2 times. And I said, well, wait a minute. Ashley's got a day job, but I don't. I could do it probably. So I'm so glad that you and I found some time to get together.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And thank you very much.
I told Ashley I'm sorry, which by the way, she's sick today or she would have been on today. So she says I'm sorry to everybody. But
Poor Ashley.
she says, or no, I told her the other night when we were on together on Thursday night, I was like, hey, Ashley, I said, hey, let's do this patron feature thing. And I did not think about what I was signing you up to do. But yeah, we've done like 5 hours of recording already for this. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be such a good Christmas present, though. Genuinely, like y'all are going to I think I've mentioned it on the show, but even the folks who are signed up as free patrons are going to get this one early for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And I just feel like I'm excited to have all of y'all's conversations.
I can't wait to see everybody's faces because I wasn't able to make it to New Orleans. And so it's going to be great. I mean, I know I've got your little pictures on Facebook.
Yeah.
But it'll be great to kind of see everybody and make connections.
That's exactly it, Manny. It's like it is. So we did a live stream, I think, where we had patrons on, a handful of patrons came on, but that was after the New Orleans trip, I guess. We're going to do this sort of thing again. Like, I'm not sure exactly when, but maybe like once a quarter or something, we'll have, hey, here's a long time slot. We're going to be on one Saturday or Sunday, and like whoever can come and hang out and we'll talk. So this won't be the last time we do this. So thank you all. Welcome to the show, patron Mandy B. Yay!
Hey!
Thank you for joining us.
I love it.
I am so excited to spend some time with you today. And again, thank you for all the comments, and thank you for the feedback, and thank you for supporting us, obviously. But this community is nothing without all of you. Like Ashley said it in New Orleans, this isn't us. Y'all did this. So
that's so
thank you for
kind,
being
Joel.
a part of it.
Well, thank you to you and Ashley for creating this for us and a place to kind of go and nerd out. I asked my husband, John, I was like, hey, do you want to come join me and meet some of my friends? And he's like, nah, I'm going to pass.
So listen, I will tell you, when you end up coming to see us in New Orleans, you just go ahead and buy him the ticket and bring him down there. My wife on the way to New Orleans this time, she was like,
he and Kelly can hang out.
Is it going to be like all Anne Rice all weekend? And I said, no, it's going to be New Orleans tourism with a bunch of people who happen to be able to write, their thesis on Anne Rice if you ask them to. So great conversations. Welcome to the show, Kyle. Thank you for spending some time with us, buddy.
Absolutely.
I am so excited that you were able to get on. It's weird, like the first 3 or 4 patrons that we spoke to in order were not folks that were on the trip in New Orleans, and then finally Patrick Garone, I think, was the first one, and we were like, hey, wait a minute, you were in New Orleans, tell us about your trip. So now we've had quite a few of the folks that were in New Orleans actually speak. But welcome to the show, child of the Millenia, Kayla.
Hello.
Kayla Ann, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Definitely happy to be here. I'm fidgety. My glasses broke on the way to work or on the way home. So I'm a little fidgety, but I'm here and I'm happy and I'm stoked.
Oh no, I'm sorry for your glasses. It's a real problem, man. You know what, I saw a reel the other day from an author that I like quite a lot, and he was making the point that children who get glasses during childhood have a drastic change in personality. And this is anecdotal evidence. I'm asking if any of you have also perceived this happening in your own life or someone else's life. And he talked about the fact that, like, for him, glasses were an incredibly fragile item. His family couldn't afford easily to break them would be a problem or he would at least be punished severely for it. And so all of the adventuresome dangerous things that he did beforehand, he suddenly got his glasses as a kid, and he's like, oh, now I changed my whole personality because I've got glasses and I can't do all those dangerous things anymore. It was something I'd never considered before, but you breaking your glasses today makes me think about it and reminds me. Kayla, did you get glasses as a kid? Did you change your whole personality?
That is actually a very relatable anecdote, because I did have them briefly as a child. I've always needed them, but coming from a very poor background, like when they broke, that was it. We couldn't replace them. I got some as a teenager,
Oh my
and
gosh.
this was the era of like the black rimmed glasses, the very emo. I mean, I guess that's what I have now, but like back then it was like the thing, and someone stole my prescription glasses from me 2 days after having them. Like I had to take them off for gym, and someone stole them. And yes, I was severely punished for this, and then continued to be blind until I was like 23. Never knew that
Oh
I
my
needed
gosh.
glasses until I failed a driver's test. Yeah, a vision test to get my license, and they were like, "No, that's unacceptable." So yeah, these have actually been broken since before New Orleans, and E6000 has been my hero. I feel like most of my life is held together with E6000 and glitter.
It's a good concoction. Lestat would approve, I think. Lestat would
I
approve.
think so. We're just gonna slap some glue and glitter on it.
All right, let's welcome to the show the next patron, Zach Brahani. Hello, Zach. How are you, bud?
Hi, everyone.
Dude, I am so happy that you were able to join me. I wasn't sure, like, I started scheduling these out to have an interview with everybody, and then I began to think of what a gigantic situation I'd signed myself up for. And
Yeah.
genuinely, I just recorded, before you and I got on, Zach, I recorded the intros and the outros for what it's going to end up being a 2-part episode. I'm going to weave y'all's discussions all together, sort of. So like we'll ask the question and then everybody will give their answer, basically, and we'll have a little bit of interjection from me and Ashley in that, and then we'll ask the next question and everybody will weave together. So it's going to be really a cool thing when we're done. But holy moly, I didn't expect all of the work that it's going to be. So Zach, let's start with this. And I'm using everybody that was actually in New Orleans as a sales pitch for folks that are thinking, well, I'd kind of like to go to Halloween, New Orleans and Halloween. Talk to us a little bit about your experience this last year. The celebration of life, obviously, we can't recreate, but hanging together with the Coven and getting to meet so many other people that share your interests. What was that like?
So for me personally, the best way I can describe our experience, particularly of the aspect of meeting everyone, is probably one of the most beautifully surreal moments of my entire life. Like, I know in real life, a lot of people ranging from family to my coworkers, they get annoyed over how obsessive I get with this stuff. And to finally meet people that actually are just as obsessed, or probably more so in the case of Autumn Brown, it's like, yeah, this is just weirdly amazing. And to be honest, given how you guys all were able to help me out towards the end, when that one thing happened was just basically, it was like I finally found a third family I didn't know existed. So overall, it was just probably one of the most beautiful experiences of all almost 31 years of my life.
That's so sweet, Zach. Well, I appreciate hearing that. Okay, so Zach, let's start with the big question. Tell us about how you first discovered Our Lady Anne. I want to get to not the end of your story with Anne, but you've got a beautiful wrap up to your trip in New Orleans that I want to talk about too. But let's start about the beginning of your trip with Anne.
So I was born to darkness in June of 2008. It was a month after my father passed, and I kind of took his death a little way harder than I would have thought. And my mother basically needed something to help, just make my life a bit easier at that time. I was at that point in time reading the first Twilight book, and that was when it was just getting huge everywhere. I mean, you go on to EW Network on TV back then, and all you would see is all the behind the scenes stuff for Twilight, Twilight, Twilight. So my mom kind of knew about vampires, and I was reading the book. Now, I still have this book somewhere in my massive books over there that has a specific review on the back that says, "In the Grand Tradition of Anne Rice." So mom looked at me and was like, "Do you know who Anne Rice was?" I was like, "No." "Okay, tonight, come to my bedroom, bring your cat. I got a movie to show you." And I sat on her bed, and she had this like bootleg VHS tape she created for herself. And the first thing I remember was the kind of the trailer for the Guns N' Roses single of Sympathy for the Devil being on there, like, oh, that's okay. And then it says a special message from the author. I still to this day cannot describe what I felt when I first saw Anne as she was there. And just from the moment she started talking, from the moment I just saw her energy, her presence, it literally, at least for me, felt like something had altered, and I have no idea what's going to come next. 2 hours later, we get done with the movie. Mom, she's passed out asleep, because like 2 a.m. at this point. I just hit stop, rewind, hit play again, and at like 4:30 at night, I finally went to bed after seeing the film twice. The next day, we were in the process of moving out of her apartment to her house, and I annoyingly asked her to take me to Books A Million. We did, and when she signed the first 4 volumes of the Vampire Chronicles with me, and these were the like early to mid 2000s Ballantine book box set edition that for some reason had movie tie-ins of Queen of the Damned in it. I don't miss that edition. She was like, "Okay, I'll buy this, read the first book to me after we get done doing our moving stuff, and we'll be good." Yeah, when I got halfway through that book before, she was like, "I think I'll stick with the movie now." But that was kind of what started off for me, was just me during the first, well, I could say the first dark period of my life, and my mother finding something for me that just created a bond between her and I. And for me personally, it was like as if Anne knew I was going through some stuff. I was like, "Hey, I know you're going through some shit, Zach, but I got some friends who are going to help you." And those friends are Louis, Lestat, Armand, Santiago, Claudia, Daniel, all of the rest of them. And you could say for the first part of my indulgence into this world, they kind of got me through middle school and most of high school. I mean, it kind of says something when all my friends are borrowing my copies of the book, passing it around, and we all just start giving each other nicknames. Like, we had one girl that we all called Kasha. We had this one Russian guy that was hardcore into BDSM. We all called Armand. And that was just how our world was overall. Was just all of us reading this book, finding things within it that we all attached to, whether it was the religious aspects or the gothic horror aspects, and we all just fell in love with it.
So I was like a semi-feral Gen X child, so I was reading and watching a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have been watching.
I'm familiar.
I'm like trying to think about this too, because I went from this weird leap from like Ramona Quimby and like Super Fudge to like Carrie and like The
Yeah,
Shining.
I did that
I don't know how
too.
it happened. Maybe it was Bunnicula. Maybe I read Bunnicula and that was my
Fucking
gateway.
Bunnicula is a gateway drug.
I think so. Yeah. And
It's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope from like Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, to
Yeah.
R.L. Stein, to V.C. Andrews, or Jackie Collins or Anne Rice, right? Like that's the pathway.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I read
No, go ahead.
V.C. Andrews like before I was even reading Anne Rice and Stephen King, I think, which is fucked up beyond belief. But though, again, like Tania said, those books were always laying around my fucking house, and if they're there, I'm gonna read it unless it's on Dad's shelf.
Well, I was mainlining Stephen King. That was my young adult literature, was Stephen King. So for some reason, Anne was never on my radar until like a few years later. By the time I got to high school, I had a friend. This would have been like 1992. I had a wise beyond her years friend who was sort of goth adjacent, you know?
Yeah.
And she loaned me this book, and it was Interview with the Vampire. And my reaction was more like, ugh, vampires. Because to this day, and I will say to this day too, not a fan of vampires. Aside from loving the Vampire Chronicles, like people love the Bible, generally speaking, and it's even more so now because like anytime I read or watch any vampire fiction, I'm just comparing it to Anne Rice, you know, and unfavorably. And after you go through all those books, like I can't deal with any basic ass vampires that like don't want to look at their reflections or are afraid of garlic, or like you need to be invited into a building. Like, what are you doing with your life? Right. So so despite my aversion to vampire stories, like I read it and was very like, I remember reading it and I was very sort of like entrenched in it. You know, it was so different from anything I'd ever read. I literally remember like how I felt about everything as I was reading it. And that first leap, and you know, I don't think we're so immersed in it that we probably don't even think about this anymore. But in my little 17-year-old mind, I was like, oh, they're killing people. Like there's a lot of murder. These books are very murdery.
Yeah.
So that's like that's a leap that you have to take. And at this point, we're all like, we just kind of take it for granted, I'm sure. But that's one of those things you sort of, yeah, you know, whatever. It's fine. Free
Once
range,
you start
free range rude, right?
Listen, when you start romanticizing Hannibal Lecter and Pennywise the Clown, which many in our group do, you have to scale back your worry about the number of deaths that take place in the Vampire Chronicles, I think.
Well, you know, when we watched, was it Only Lovers Left Behind? That
Only
they
Lovers
had
Left Alive, yes.
No, that they had the like cutting thing, or that was the David Bowie one.
That's is it the Hunger? Yeah, that's the David Bowie.
So in that they didn't have fangs; they had these like little, and they were stabbing people and cutting them, and that seemed so much more violent and awful to me than a vampire like seducing you and then nuzzling up on your neck and getting in there. It just seems scarier. But you're totally right. I think that because we romanticize the entire thing, we completely forget about, you know, we can ignore the horror and kind of lean in on the romance of it.
It's like if you remember Lestat's murder thimble in the Interview with the Vampire movie. You know, he has that little the little device. And it's almost like I love in Queen of the Damned, she writes through Jesse, like about how Jesse felt about reading Interview with the Vampire. And she was kind of like icked out by the whole thing. And she, I think, left it in like an airport or something. Like she just didn't want to deal with it. But yeah, so I read that. And I think very quickly, that was 92. I want to say by 94, when Taltos came out, I was caught up. Like I had read all the vampire books. I had read all the witch books. I had read The Mummy, like her biography. I'm just doing the math. It's a lot in a very short amount of time. But for me, it was reading The Vampire Lestat. That's it's not her best book, I don't think. But it is, I think, my favorite of her books. And for me also, just as a queer person, you know, at that time when there was so little representation, or at least like interesting representation, right? It was so refreshing.
Deep in the AIDS crisis then too, you know, like in the mid 90s, you know, like it's nice to see representation and romanticism, you know, frankly. It's something that isn't just, you know, a horrifying like fucking medical pandemic disaster.
And I think just as a queer like metaphor, like if you look at Interview, which I don't like as a queer story, at least the book, because it's very like tropey. It's very very unhappy, tragic, gay person kind of story. And then you go to Lestat, who's this sort of joyous, luminous, charismatic, just like having fun. He's like this cheerful nihilist about the world. You know, I found that so inspiring. And to this day, again, I don't think it's her best book, but I do think it's definitely my favorite out of all of her books.
I think when we did our tier listing episode last week, I think we talked about I think I described it as not her most artful, right? I think there's a good argument to be made that Interview with the Vampire might be the most literary of her entire...
Or Mayfair, I would say, are probably the most literary out of her.
The Witching Hour, you mean?
Yeah. The Witching Hour. Sorry. The Witching Hour, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I would argue that those two are definitely higher tier as far as the literary piece of it goes.
She had this run, right, from like Queen of the Damned to the Witching Hour, and I would throw The Mummy in there too. Tale of the Body Thief, like those are all for my money, all of her best books.
Yeah,
Tale of the Body Thief and The Mummy are both like two of the best. Take the Anne Rice of it all out of it. Take the Connected World out of it. Those are just two of the best novels of all time.
I wouldn't have
so great, enjoyable, just stories. You know?
I don't even know that I would have known that she wrote The Mummy. Having, when I read it, like it did not, it's like, but it
feels very
it goes
different.
hand in hand with Tale of the Body Thief, and that it's such a fucking fun adventure ride. And it's nice to get to do that after you've made your characters fucking suffer for so long.
It's like those are both fairly low stakes kind of books. They're nice little self-contained.
Yeah.
Whereas like Queen of the Damned is basically like, I don't know. It's always seemed to me like almost like a superhero story. Like it's flying
Avengers.
in like the X-Men. Like
it is.
Yeah, you literally. So okay, think about the way that like the big Avenger, like especially like Avengers Endgame or Infinity War, where it's like multiple storylines going on at once, multiple teams that all end up in the same place together and don't even really know what all of the other people are doing there until they all collide, right? Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the way Queen of the Damned plays out, which is so cool when you think about the fact that we're building to that on TV. And you could literally bring together multiple television series by the time we get there to have characters cross over and do. I mean, we could really do some cool shit here, AMC, if you pile up the money and make this thing happen right.
Well, and
I
Derek
guess renew Mayfair too.
Derek mentioned, being like comic books being a really big deal in his like growth and development as a reader and consumer of entertainment. Like I love that something that to me is very literary can still give off a fucking comic book vibe, because I am not a fucking snob about shit at all. I'm like, you like your comic books? Read the comic books. There's great fucking stories in there. You like this? Read this. You like audiobooks? Listen. Whatever. Let's not gatekeep. But I love that she kind of transcends genre in that way. Her books can be really serious. They can be beautiful. They can be literature. They can be porn.
And everything in between. But I mean,
everything in between.
Have you read Gilgamesh? Like Gilgamesh and the Odyssey are pretty comic booky too, So like,
oh no, totally.
High literary fiction doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to all be Wuthering Heights. Is my point, right? Like it doesn't have to be. Yeah, exactly. Not to poo-poo Wuthering Heights, but
or pish and posh.
Pish and posh, sure. I think the thing that she achieved really well was like she took this concept which could have been in another writer's hands, very campy. They could have distanced themselves from it, or like put up walls between themselves and the content. But she wrote this. She committed so much to the concept. She wrote with such sincerity and like emotional honesty. That she ended up, literature or not, like I don't really care about the label. She affected her readers deeply. Like, and you guys were at the Celebration of Life. How many people were like, "Oh, I felt seen,"
Yes.
Full on boohooing in the crowd.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that got me is like so many people mourned her like they would their mother or their aunt or their best friend or their fucking partner. And rightfully so, honestly, because of what she's done for our lives, honestly. Like, it's real, the impact that she's had on us. Yeah.
like if you read Interview, like there's so much in there, like it's so rich that, you know, you're pulling different stuff out depending on your, you know, your perspective. We talked about like the queer narrative in there, but there's also like, certainly if you've ever lost somebody,
Yeah.
you know, and you're reading that
Grief.
book, you're going to connect to it. You know, the Claudia character is this, I feel like if you're, again, I understand this intellectually because I'm a man, but if you're a woman who's ever been infantilized or sort of marginalized, I think you're
Mm.
going to get why Claudia is so pissed off.
I
Like
think it's why I love Claudia so much. I think that's why I am a Claudia apologist, frankly.
Well, I'm curious about that because meeting you in person, and if you guys haven't met Ashley, you might be surprised by how like diminutive she is. She's quite a small statured lady.
Very small.
And I'm wondering, like, does that sort of tie into your love of that character? Do you feel like some kinship with her?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Because um, I'm under 5 feet tall, and but I don't feel like I'm under 5 feet tall. You know, like I give off much taller energy than that, but I am quite small. People have always picked me up without asking permission. I have been tossed into more trees to retrieve frisbees and things like that. Like, it is wild what people think is okay to do to someone that's short because we're fun sized. We're like, oh, I can toss you. Like, oh, but literally, Joel, Mark Gwynn, I did a class with Mark Gwynn one time, and he was like, I'm gonna teach some new rolls and falls today, so I'm gonna just roll when I throw you. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, just roll when I throw you. And I was like, sure. And I just roll. I mean, like, but I'm very, yeah. And she is a woman in a child's body, you know, and that is, I am frequently not taken seriously because I am petite. I am frequently not taken seriously because I'm a woman. When I get mad, sometimes it's cartoonish, like Danny DeVito, you know? So there is a lot about Claudia that I really connect to and understand and really feel in my soul. I just love her and I pity her, and I hate she didn't have a better time of it. But she shouldn't have, at 5 years old, for fuck's sake, Lestat.
No, you're 100% right. There's no good argument to be made there. Hey, Patrick, I've got a different question for you than we asked the other people, but you've mentioned it a couple of times now, and I want to get your take on this. I don't know that I've ever asked anyone this question. As a queer man who is a fan of Anne Rice and who loves these books, has it ever bothered you that the relationship is not more literal in the books and physicalized in the books than it is? I mean, we've got this whole subset of the fandom that's mad at the TV show because they actually have sex, right? And we're all like, but guys, they were lovers the whole time.
They were having sex. They just weren't having sex.
Yeah, right. And obviously, we're all grown ups and we know that romanticism and physicality and intimacy is not only about penetration, i.e., but is it a bummer that they didn't just do that in the books for you, Patrick? That's my question.
Maybe again, an Interview. It's fairly subtextual, right?
Yeah.
You can kind of maybe read it and miss out on that element of the story. I
you
think
can
it's
overlook it if you want to. Yeah.
Well, and
it's fairly overt in Lestat.
Yeah.
Yes.
There could be a vibe of shame in it too. An Interview.
Yeah.
And again,
Catholic it's from Louis' point of view, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it may be something he just didn't want to like overtly talk about because he's, you know, a Southern gentleman. You know, he may not have wanted to elucidate that. I will say one of the few things I don't like about the show is that they do have sex. I kind of miss the sort of heightened sexuality of the books where it's almost like they're angelic or they're sort of they've surpassed like their humanity a little bit.
Yes.
I feel like it does sully them a little bit that they're kind of like fucking and stuff. Like I mean, and I will say one thing that's interesting, and I'm not asexual at all.
Sure.
You can ask my partner, but I do feel like that in itself is a kind of representation. Like it's almost like if I were an asexual person, I would find a lot in there to sort of relate to. Like, and you never see that represented at all. It's almost like the last taboo. Like you know, characters that I always think are going to turn out to be asexual always end up like they get tacked on like a romantic interest.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
I kind
or
of
they're
miss
an
that
incel,
element.
or it's like an
Or the-
incel type character. You know, it's not like somebody that like is truly asexual. It's someone who has been denied sex. You know.
Yeah, yeah, but
The
I
heightened
love the
sexuality. The heightened sexuality is the best way to describe it, Patrick. That's so perfect because it's not that the books are asexual in my reading anyway. It's that the sexuality has transcended
Yeah.
physicality for them, right? The intimacy is in the sharing of blood and the eternal knowledge of one another. The fact that I can learn you over an eternity, literally.
I think that's something you
that's
see in
fascinating.
Pandora too. It's like because she mentions that Marius will penetrate her while they're in the coffin and they'll just go to sleep like that. And it's like a comfort to her, but it's not sex. It is this connection, this different connection. It's like a reminder of the past kind of a thing instead of like, yeah. Because they've already hit a higher level of whatever the fuck Marius is doing to people.
Yeah, and it's I think that might be the one instance in the books where vampires have sex. Well, I guess no, I just started Prince Lestat, so I won't even.
Yeah, it's the only one until the Prince Lestat trilogy, and even those have specific circumstances behind them. Yeah,
yeah, but again, I've always loved that they're so erotic. These vampire books without actually
erotic without sexual.
Out any sex at all.
Yeah.
I think that's a neat trick that she's pulled off in the writing. But I mean,
it's true. That's very true.
They're queer as hell. Like it's obvious. Like if you read the Vampire Lestat and like you miss the fact that he had a full on boyfriend that he's like abducted out of bed with, like you're very selectively reading the book,
Yeah.
You're kind of
really
cherry
are.
picking it.
Yeah. That's okay. That is such an unexpected read and as such an unexpected answer to that, but I love it honestly.
do
And that's
too.
exactly what I was
Absolutely love it.
that's exactly what I was hoping to get from you, honestly. We are joined right now by another one of the children of the Millenia, Tania. Tania, hello and welcome to the show.
Hey, Tania.
Hello.
It's nice to
We
see
appreciate
your
you
beautiful
so
face
much.
in motion.
Yeah, it's not just a hidden picture.
Listen.
I know, it's when we were meeting people in New Orleans, it was so funny because so many people do not have a picture as their like a profile picture.
Yes.
And so people were coming and I just kept saying to people, I'm Ashley. And they were like, we know.
I
know who you are.
I know who you are. Yeah. Tania, we are so thankful that you've been with us a long time, by the
Yes,
way,
you
as a
have.
patron. You've been from very early on. Talk to us a little bit about where you discovered Anne Rice and when you first found these books and these worlds.
The first book I read was Queen of the Damned. I was
Hell yeah.
unnecessarily young. I think I was like 13.
Yes.
But I've always had, very I don't even know the word for it. Illegal taste in books. Like I was like 10 reading Jackie Collins.
Yeah.
There you go.
Should be banned.
Well, it's because when you read well, you read
Yes.
fast and you'll
Yes.
read anything.
Yes.
Like I would read anything that was laying around the house. You better put
Yeah.
something good in my hand if you don't want me to read smut.
Yeah. Well, and mostly during my teenage years, it was, Jackie Collins was like my pinnacle of smut,
Yes.
but it's like, it taught me a lot.
I mean, how to marry rich, how to divorce and remarry richer.
Exactly.
I just always think about those, especially like Jackie Collins. It's funny for a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old. Jackie Collins may be very risque, but honestly, considering what our kids are exposed to these days through the internet,
yeah.
it's honestly pretty safe. But also, I think about it like this too: we're able to confront those ideas and those topics and those parts of life in a safe fashion, right? Like nobody's putting anybody's parts together. Nobody is chancing any diseases, et
The
cetera, et cetera,
cocaine's
right?
just in the book.
Yeah,
Not on
exactly.
the book. It's in the book, not on the book.
Well, with Jackie Collins's books, it was such a strong female character lead.
Yeah.
Like Lucky was like growing up, like that was my hero. That was a bad bitch. That's who I wanted to be when I grew up. It's like, I will take you out. I will take your job. I will kill you and I will help you hide the body. That's what attracted me to those books. And
I love
then
it.
Anne's books were just, the descriptions is what caught me. It was
Yes.
just, it was lyrical. It's like you were there, you were fully immersed in all of her books, from the Vampire Chronicles to the Wolf books to the Beauty books. They're all just so immersive. The Angel books, that's when I became obsessed with New Orleans,
Yeah.
reading those books.
Yeah. I was already really obsessed with New Orleans because we had started to go down there pretty regularly. Like, I mean, my family went down there about once a year when I was a like preteen and teenager, and I had already fallen in love with that city. And then once those books found their way into my hands and I could read what she said about New Orleans, I was like, this is what I want to say about this city. This is what I want to say about this beautiful place that I love so much. She gets it. She fucking gets this place.
Yeah.
The way that you just described it, Ashley, Stuart and I were having this conversation. He said, when I read Anne's books when I was young, it was fun because she was describing places where I had been. And it was like, oh, I know these
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
He said he was so impressed watching and talking to these people who, like Moa, for instance, coming from Sweden, who had read these books and had this whole idea of New Orleans in her mind. And then she gets there, and Anne has described it so perfectly that she was overwhelmed. And Melissa was the same way. Melissa Bouchard, they were both overwhelmed by the jasmine, for instance. They were like, it really smells like jasmine everywhere, for instance. To see that from the flip side, you and I growing up near so that we visited on a regular basis, we find the books and it's like, oh, this is a place I know. For so many people, they only know it through the book. So to go and get to experience it in person, it's like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. What a gift.
Tania, are you gonna be with us next year at Halloween? I can't remember whether you. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm dragging my husband with me because he's just
excellent.
So Patrick, you are the first one of our patrons to join this little shindig that was actually with us in New Orleans for 2025.
Awesome. Okay.
Talk a little bit about being with the Coven. And one of the things, we've already mentioned it a little bit, but like one of the things that I was so impressed by was the fact that, like, okay, in the comments we hear often, oh, Ashley, Joel, you had such insightful commentary on this, this book or this show or this movie or whatever. Every single one of you motherfuckers are that insightful, though. Like, you could all just host your own podcast, actually.
Truly.
Yeah, it was really lovely. Like, I missed you guys a couple times, and my fiance and I were coming out of the celebration of life, and I heard this cackle, and I was like, I know that cackle. That's Ashley.
Not my fucking car alarm laugh signaling my presence across the city.
Yeah. That's that, and that's how I found you guys. And then we hung out with you guys at, I don't remember what the bar was, but it was such a
Will in the Way. No, I think MBR or something like that. Yeah.
It was letters, right?
MRB,
MBS. I don't know.
I have IBS. I'm not sure.
No, but it was such a nice night. First of all, I rarely get a chance to talk to other Anne Rice fans. Like, there's just not that many of them in my life. So it was cool to go from person to person and kind of talk about what their favorite book was and just, shoot the shit in a way that I rarely get the opportunity to do. And it was this lovely night that went until 4 a.m., like this great New Orleans evening where some dude was passed out next to us. There was a creepy cowboy trying to work his way into the circle. Yeah.
I had to
so
put
it was
him
a lot
outside.
of fun. I really regret that we're not going to be able to make it next Halloween because we're getting married like earlier in the month.
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Where's the wedding?
The wedding is, I'm in Chicago. I live in Chicago. So the wedding is in a suburb of Chicago.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you. But we were talking about, even before you guys, I know initially you weren't talking about doing it next year, but we were like, well, we got to start doing New Orleans for Halloween every year because it's just a great time to be there.
So much fun.
It's not disgustingly hot, which I appreciate.
And it was great. I was actually crazy cool while we were down there. It was really unseasonably cool.
Yeah, it was just a good time to be there. Like, I had always wanted to go for Halloween, and this was just a good opportunity with the celebration of life to mark that off my little bucket list.
Welcome to the show. Another great patron, Brat Prince Bran. Hello. Fran, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. It's nice to see you again.
It's so good to see you again too. So it's interesting. We've only had one person so far record these features for this episode that was actually with us in New Orleans before you. Patrick
Okay.
recorded previously.
Oh,
And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with this because I asked him the same thing too. Tell everybody what it was like hanging out. One of the things that even people who weren't really in our group, but were hanging out with me and Ashley because it was fun to be in New Orleans for Halloween. So like
mhm.
her friends and family and a couple of my friends from college, we got so many comments that were something like, man, I didn't expect literally every conversation to be deep and interesting and compelling, but it was. It didn't matter where I went as I wandered around the bar or wherever we were hanging out. Everybody was cool and fun to hang out with. Talk a little bit about hanging out with us in New Orleans this Halloween.
Well, I think, like you said before on the pod and everything, even after the show and everything is over, there's still going to be lots to talk about with this crowd, with this coven. No, it was great to meet everybody. I dragged my friend along who is not a big fan. I mean, he's fine with it and everything, but I kind of was like, sorry, sorry to drag you here with all these nerds, man. But no, it was great. It was awesome. Just hanging out with everybody. I lost my voice though that Saturday when we were all hanging out, and I was like, well, I can't really say anything. So it was a lot of like miming and stuff like that. But you're all great. Yeah, it was totally cool. Like everyone was just completely chill. No one was weird, you know. Everyone
Which is impressive
along.
when we're
Right.
this hyper focused on a strange
Yeah, maybe
hobby
I was
like
the weird
this.
one. I don't know.
No, you weren't at all. That's the beauty
Yeah.
of it. Like we genuinely had such a good time, and it's why I think these conversations have ended up stretching longer than we intended them to do.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk to y'all more, even now that I've got you on a video call too.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get into the meat of this, tell everybody a little bit about you. Where are you from, and who is Brand?
I'm Brand. I live in Baltimore. Represent. I'm a paralegal, so I have a super exciting job. I have kind of a secret alter ego where I write a little bit of fan fiction on the side.
Nice.
That no one in my real life knows about. So we're gonna keep that a secret.
Yeah, man.
But it's an escape from the doldrums of reality. So
It's so far in the past, Brand, that we don't think about it. But I try to explain this to my kids. Once upon a time on the internet, the idea of putting your real name on the internet was like beyond the pale of absurd. No one would ever. Everything had screen names and profile names and avatars or whatever. Like it wasn't your real picture, your government name.
Well, I don't even do that now, as you know. On Facebook, I hide behind Lestat. I'm just like, it's fine.
I referenced it earlier that you had, again, not the end to your story with Anne, but an end to your trip in New Orleans for this Halloween for her celebration of life. You ended it effectively at her graveside, and you were reading the final piece of her writing that you hadn't already read, right?
Oh yeah. And like for me, that entire experience is honestly probably the one thing that made this trip just the perfect cherry on top. Because I've always had this dream of actually going to Anne, telling her in person, not just over the emails we should, but actually in person, how I felt about her work. Sadly, I never got that chance. But on that last day, it took me like 3 hours to walk from my hostel to her grave. Yeah, I'll do all this by foot, limping, I don't care. This deserved it. And right when I got into the gravesite and I actually got to a mausoleum, that was when all the emotions started pouring out of me. Like, it took me longer than I expected to actually walk up to it because I just stopped so many times to wipe my eyes because I was just under that much emotion. And for like the first 2 hours, I just sat there and just mindlessly spoke to Anne the best I could. Like, nobody really showed up, at least towards the end of me being there. So, yeah, I had the entire thing to myself. And sitting on the steps, looking at all of the tributes people left, I was like, you know what, Anne? It's about time I read with you. So, got my book back, took out the alphabet tree, finished reading all of that, literally with her right behind me. And I still remember it being cold as hell when I got into that mausoleum, but right when I left, it just had this feeling of warmth, of comfort, as if Anne was like, "You finally did, Zach. Now you know what to do next." And given how I low-key almost unofficially treat just like my sacred religion, it's like, yeah, I already know. Start spreading the word of Lestat to everyone, whether you want to hear it or not. Hi, coworkers.
I love that you're the person proselytizing for Anne and Lestat as hard as the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses are for Jesus.
I had never been to New Orleans. Enj- enjoyed that amazingly. I love that city. It is so much fun. The people are a lot of different types, and big old
Yeah.
soup bowl. But and whenever like Kayla had told me like exactly what it was months and months prior, and I was just like, wow, yeah, I wish I could afford to go to that. And she was just like, no, she's a little schemer sometimes. It's really funny. But I for about 10 years I lived in Galveston, Texas, and it reminded me of Galveston, but bigger and somehow more compacted. And but there's a lot of like, oldness to it, very historical. The culture there is not what I'm used to in Houston, let's just put it that way. But yeah, no, it was a trip. I mean, notable mentions for anybody that ends up going: Jackson Square Park. Love that place. Had a
It's
very,
really
very
lovely.
great little afternoon there.
Yeah, it's one of the things I think that New Orleans is like such a surprise for people from other parts of the country is because there are so few walkable cities anymore. And New Orleans, the downtown area, is very walkable. Like it's just you can, a matter of fact, you can't park most places, so you gotta walk and hoof it. But it feels very walkable, and it's enjoyable to have a place where, oh, I went to this restaurant over there, and then I went to my hotel over there, and there was this shop that I went to, and there was a music venue that I saw, and all of that was just like, within a few blocks of each other. I think that's one of the big draws of New Orleans, and people just don't appreciate it. It's the same draw for Disney World, by the way.
Well,
We
one
don't have
thing I will
walkable
mention
cities.
that surprised me a lot, because again, I'm used to Houston. When we did have to drive around and go park places, parking was really not that expensive for what I'm used to. I mean, like we parked for the day at certain places that were might have been $10, and anywhere you go in Houston, it's like $20 an hour. Like,
That is good to note, because I always feel like parking is very expensive and rare in New Orleans, but it's just because of the cities that I'm experiencing are not overpriced in that way. That's good to note. So tell us how you first discovered Anne and her world and works. What's your intro to this world of darkness?
I have to go a little bit farther back to a movie you guys did a show on, which was The Lost Boys, which I watched when I was
Oh, heck yeah.
maybe 8 or 9, and I was in love. Like when all the other kids were like, I want to be an astronaut, a doctor. I wanted to be a vampire because of that movie. It was so phenomenal. And then I went looking for their vampire stuff, and I just kept coming across like the dusty people that were around for 200 years but just said blah, like they didn't do anything. And I just kind of sat on my love of vampires, just watched Lost Boys on repeat. And then I got into high school, and my friend handed me a copy of Interview with the Vampire, and she said, this is not vampires that just go blah. She's like, you're going to like them. And so we only had one copy of the book between us. And so I would take it for like a period in class, read a bunch of chapters. Then my friend, I'd pass it off to her in the hallway, and we just sort of go back and forth. And I remember, I mean, spoilers to a whole group of people that know, but like when Claudia died, we like met each other in the hallway, like crying our eyes out, and people were staring at us like, what is wrong with you? And then just from there, it just became like everything to me. It was like, it was just my fandom, my books that I would go to like when I needed comfort reading. I mean, just etc. Like I just had it in my life forever. And then I kind of grew older and put things down for a while. And then when the show started up, I fell so in love with it within the first 5 minutes. And my friends probably hated me because I would not shut up about the show, like at all, to the point that I conned them into reading the books and watching the show. And I got some of them to go to New Orleans with me for her celebration of life, and did part of my undergrad thesis on her work. So it's just always, Anne's always been there. I guess that's the best way to say it.
So talk a little bit about the trip to New Orleans, and first of all, was that your first time in the city?
No, I actually had my honeymoon there
I didn't think so.
because of Interview with the Vampire, because of Anne Rice. Like we've been married for a while, but when we first got married, that's when I knew we had to go, just because I wanted to be in that city. And yeah, I was really lucky. Like when she died and Christopher said we're going to be doing this celebration, like I just had it. I didn't care when it was happening, what I was doing. Like I knew that I was going to drop everything and go to this. And I thought I'd be going by myself. So I just kind of put that in my head. And when they finally announced the date and everything, I started talking to it about my other friends who were just now reading the books. And all of a sudden they were like, oh, we're going to go with you. And that was amazing to all of a sudden have people that loved it as much going with me. Then I heard you guys were going to be there, and I was like, oh, this is an actual like gathering, and that was going to be phenomenal. And my experience with it was so much more emotional than I thought it was going to be. Like I cried through the celebration of life, and I don't know why I wouldn't expect to do that, but like I cried my way through that. The journals, I was in Tulane reading her journals for my project at the time, and the journals I had on me happened to be the ones where Stan was dying. So I was reading that. So that was very emotional.
Oh.
And then I had gone, my beloved cat, Manderley, who meant the world to me, she had passed away. And I'd brought her picture to carry in New Orleans on usually the 1st or the 2nd. They do an amazing Day of the Dead parade. And so I'd brought her picture and we walked in the parade. I carried it all the way to the ofrenda, put it up there. And right when we were getting out of that, doing that, I got the ping from you guys saying, oh, hey, we're at this bar and come visit us. And I was like, things have been so heavy. It would be so great to just go and be around a bunch of like fans and like feel their enthusiasm and joy for the show. And so like my other friends were with me, and I said, hey, there's this podcast, and some of them had listened to, and I said, we're going to go and just be around amazing people for a little while. So we did. And it was the best decision ever, a way to end our trip and just share it with y'all and get to meet you guys in person. So that was fantastic.
You all were such a highlight too. My favorite part about the weekend was that everywhere we went, there was some new person that I was able to either meet for the first time or actually get to have a conversation with that I hadn't so far in the weekend, So literally every time we were out in public, there was some new experience to add to the weekend that was not only like a nice memory, but a new relationship,
Yes.
or at least on my side. Like the podcasting is so weird because you all know Ashley and I so fucking well at this point because we're both oversharers.
Yeah.
But to be able to put faces with all of you and to be able to get a sense of each of your personalities as we were able to share, like it was really, really special. I told somebody this about the New Orleans group, the folks that were in New Orleans the first time. You all are going to have badges that are branded or something. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but you're going to be marked in some way because I'm genuinely, I want, when we're doing this in 27 or in 28 or whatever, the folks that show up that have an OG badge, I want you to be little minor celebrities amongst the rest of the crew, right? People go like, oh, Kayla, you were at the first one, Kayla? Yes, I was there. I was there in 2025 when they first came to New Orleans. It was lovely. You really should have been there.
The first brood.
Yes. Well, that's the fucking answer, isn't it? God damn it. I'm so mad I didn't think about that. I am so disappointed with myself. Here's the best thing, though. Now that gets to go in the show. Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right. Let's get to the work at hand here, Kyle. When did you discover Anne Rice, and what is your like entree into her world, or what is your connection to her works or adaptations thereof?
Well, so my mother introduced me technically because whenever Interview came out on with the Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, she would watch anything and everything. That's like one of the very few traits me and her share. But like, I was very young watching that movie. I think it was like 5 or 6, and probably not appropriate. But it is what it is. And I really enjoyed that particular story and the odd glamour of it and the way that it sort of draws people in from one angle or another based off of personality of the viewer. And then and then, you know, several years went by and I had watched Queen of the Damned and was not really impressed even at that young age. Still did like the music. But and then, you know, many years later, probably only about 5 or 6 years ago, Kayla had actually, you know, shown me her entire bookshelf, which is packed with Anne Rice, which we might get to see here in a little bit. But so I finally broke down, and I'm a bit dyslexic, ADHD, so not much of a reader per se. So I started listening to the audiobooks. The first 4 are free on YouTube. And just absolute, like, interview was good. I love that book, but when I got to the Vampire Lestat, that whole book and the person who did it, who did that particular audiobook, because it was the older version, not the newer one, just fell in love with it and literally went from Vampire Lestat to Queen of the Damned to Tale of the Body Thief, and maybe didn't stop but to sleep after listening to them, and it was so good. I was lucky enough to have a job at the time where I could just pop in a headphone and listen to audiobook all day long. But yeah, so the baby steps were when I was a kid, and then the really like deep dive into the whole series, the vampire series specifically. I've also listened to the witch stuff, but was just a few years ago.
Yeah, I always I say it's my aunt for introducing me, and then my mom for fighting the librarian. So it's your mom for setting up the world, and then Kayla for reminding you that the world was deeper than you had gotten to know so far. So Derek, you first of all, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you came to Anne Rice specifically pretty late in life, didn't you? You did not read these books as a kid.
Yeah, I didn't read them as a kid. I didn't grow up reading them or spend my adolescence with them. No.
So talk to me though about your background with horror then. What was your exposure to horror or horror literature, gothic literature as a kid and in your teen years?
You know, one of my first memories, I don't know if y'all remember this one. Do y'all remember what was that called? Monster Squad? In the
Yes.
The Wolfman has nards.
Love Monster Squad.
Exactly. Like, I don't remember how old I was, but I remember that movie and like all of those characters being together in that movie. I can't even remember like anything really about the movie, but I remember its existence and kind of being exposed to it through that. And you know, I knew like about Anne. I just never had gotten into really like, you know, I was like 12 when the Interview movie came out. So I was like aware of this stuff, and I guess not horror, but like, you know, I was a teenager around the time of like Scream and stuff like that. And so I started to get into that, and I always liked, kind of prior to getting into this, I always thought of myself more as a werewolf kind of guy. You know, I like the werewolf story. I remember Teen Wolf growing up.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Love Teen Wolf.
he becomes the star basketball player and surfs on top of the car and all that stuff. Yeah.
So let me interject there, because I was also a big werewolf guy when I was young. Now, I started reading the Anne books pretty early, as everybody knows, but I was big into, like, the Wolfman was my favorite Universal monster movie.
Yeah.
And honestly probably still is. And I loved Teen Wolf. I liked I really liked Teen Wolf 2 as well.
Yeah.
But there's an interesting thing that I had never understood or known about until Rose Sinister gave us this little tidbit on the tour that we took with her this Halloween. She talked about the fact that during World War II, the Nazis and far right movements across Europe actually used the werewolf mythology as a force of nature, right? It's not evil. It just arises from nature and maintains the balance and is a predator, a strong predator and defender of the land sort of thing, right? Meanwhile, the vampire is symbolic of particularly Jewish, but Eastern European people coming in, sucking out the lifeblood of the local population and destroying the area, right? And so the idea that we have in the modern world of vampires and werewolves being at each other's throats, for lack of a better, of always battling, that comes from World War II. That's Nazi propaganda that we're buying into there, man. So vampires and werewolves, nothing wrong with liking both of them.
That makes me want to be not on Team Werewolf.
I know, right? I like werewolves, but not those werewolves.
But not those. I'm not one of those werewolves.
I was always been into comic books, like my whole life, and so Image Comics came out as like I was kind of almost going into the teenage years, and so those had a impact on me too, like Spawn and stuff like that. And so getting into that kind of things with that supernatural stories and
Spawn
hell
is
and all this
awesome.
things.
Spawn is really cool. Brett, my husband Brett, he's really, really into Spawn. We have Spawn figures all over our house.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's badass.
Todd McFarlane makes great figures.
Oh man, he is. Todd McFarlane is a wicked genius.
It is crazy that literally all of those character designs from the early 90s are like perfectly made for figures, because they've all got a million pouches and hoops on their shoulders, and all cloaks. Very great for articulation. Yeah,
yes.
Cloaks, long cloaks.
Cloaks for fucking days.
Yeah, big cloaks for a while too. Everybody had these long ponytails that would just flow.
You make that ponytail stream out behind them. Yeah, absolutely. So did you find Anne because of us? You started hanging out in the Facebook group and then went and read the books. Is that right? Or did you start reading the books first?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this, and this I told Joel once that the name of my story would be that Joel is my maker.
I love it.
And Ashley, I don't know if you knew this, but you and Joel and I all went to the same university.
Right.
So Louisiana Tech. I didn't know you. I kind of knew Joel back then, enough at least to where we ended up being Facebook friends when that became
a thing.
A thing.
Yeah, that's right, guys. We're older than Facebook.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to borrow a college email address when tech first got added to the Facebook list, so that I didn't have a tech email anymore.
Yeah, I didn't have one. I had to wait until it went, to the old
until it went wide.
Until they were nice. Oh, we'll let the old people in now.
No, yeah, I got in 2004, or I guess it was like late 2004. Yeah, it was after I'd graduated, though. Ella was in school at the time, and we were married, and I borrowed one of her email addresses because she was working on campus at like Tech TV or something.
That's
anyway,
awesome.
Such a strange situation. Yes. All right. So,
Derek, what did you study at Tech?
Sociology.
Yeah.
Which I did a lot with that,
Ashley and I do a lot with our theater and my poli-sci degree too. I say that, I always downplay it, but Mark Gwynn always reminds me, it's like every fucking thing you do with that theater degree. Don't downplay that.
Yeah,
everything you do with your sociology degree too. Like
110%. Everything that I am good at in my life probably is because I have a theater degree.
Yeah, absolutely. But
no, it did
anyway.
seem like a complete waste of a waste of sense when I was graduating in May of 2001. I was like, who let me do this? I am never going to get a job.
And the crazy thing, Ashley, you and I graduated before the economy collapsed too. And we still couldn't find anything to do with it.
I mean, I worked pretty steady for a long time.
Yes, you did. Yes, that's right. Neither one of us should downplay what we've done. It just didn't make us rich, folks. We had real high dreams, I guess.
No,
That's what I'm saying.
No, I knew I was not going to be rich. My people are not rich. We are not wealthy. We are peasant stock, and that's why I'm close to the ground and round.
My mama says poor people got poor ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Derek, when did you start reading Anne? Did you join the Facebook group first and then start reading the books?
No, I think I started over the years I think this was like around probably like 2017 or something, where you and I were Facebook fans. And I remember you posting about I think this was when the Hulu deal had been announced. And so then I found out through that Joel was an Anne Rice super fan. And that's when I found out that you had co-founded the very first Anne Rice podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember, so anytime I heard something about Anne Rice, I thought about Joel, because that was the connection in my head. And so, AMC got the rights to the show, and I found out the show was coming out, and it became clear that their version of the show was going to be a gay ass vampire show, and so like from that I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch this show when it comes out. So then I started thinking about it, and I was like, well, maybe I should read the first book, before the show comes out, get some knowledge. And then I think around that time I reached out to Joel, because that was my Anne Rice connection,
It's the plug.
And, yeah, and then he was like, yeah, this is fucking great books, and and so then at that point I started reading the books, and I remember I felt like I was like live tweeting my thoughts to Joel as it was going on, like, we're supposed to like Lestat? This guy's terrible.
This guy's a dick. I thought you said he was amazing.
And then Joel writes back to me. He's like, well, this is from one person's point of view. And then I'm like,
just read the books.
I'm like, God, this Louis is so fucking annoying. And
he's so
and
sad.
Then later, it hits me. Oh, I'm Louis. That's why this guy's annoying me so much.
I've been Louis. I've definitely been Louis.
I mean, you do. I genuinely, and Derek, I know that you've talked about it in the group that you dealt with, mental health issues at different times, and depression especially, which so many of us do. I think it's one of the reasons why Anne is so appealing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we forget when we're in that hole, we are sort of sad and depressing to be around and annoying to be around at times, right? And you're like, hey, actually, that person in our life that will sit there with us even when we're being really shitty, we've got to give them so much grace and understanding and appreciation, because like they love us anyway. It's not like we're all grown, and we really should not bring this to the party necessarily all the time. So when we find somebody who can, and that's the thing, like, yes, Lestat is a dick, and Lestat doesn't tell him everything that he should tell him in that story.
No.
And he does bumble the making of Claudia in some ways, and he does bumble their grooming and education. Well, I mean,
she's 5.
Yes, okay, but what was he gonna genuinely? I've thought about this so much recently for some reason. Is there any scenario in which Lestat doesn't make Claudia and yet Louis continues to live? I don't know that there is.
Is that a good enough
I don't know that there is.
To turn a 5-year-old girl into a fucking vampire to save your relationship?
Saying. No,
let's have a baby.
But
you know what? We can't get along. Let's have a baby. It'll fix everything.
But Derek, that's what you were feeling, and it was
Yeah.
you were absolutely live tweeting it at me for a.
I love that.
You were 4 books in, I think, before you stopped doing it.
Oh, yeah,
like on a regular basis.
I was reading all of them. Probably Tales of the Potty Thieves, sending stuff. Memnock, going through, and so I did. Oh yeah, and in being Louis, I just thought about this. I definitely, and being Louis, I seek out Lestats in my life.
Don't we all?
I think
a little bit.
I think, like you were saying, Joel. Yeah, you look for those people to take you to the party, or to talk to people for you.
Yeah.
So you don't have
to dust your dust off your shoulders and make sure you're presentable.
But,
so I joke all the time about I want my partner to be a stage manager, right? Like I wanted to marry a stage manager. I need somebody to tell me when my curtain call is and when my showtime, when's my call time. Kelly is very much good at that. She's very good at running the house and keeping a calendar and like
she is
just pointing me in the right direction, right? And keeping me on track for things. I think Lestats are good at that to a degree. The danger is when you have someone who controls the relationship because of that, right? And Lestat does this with Louis. Lestat likes Louis a little depressed because that means that Lestat is not challenged by someone else being interesting to Louis,
So I listened to this podcaster. She's a criminologist. She worked for New Scotland Yard. And she's super brilliant. She did it's called the Dash Risk Assessment. And it's something that they use in Great Britain to assess domestic violence danger, like the heat of a situation. But one of the things that she talks about all the time is that the person who is in control of the emotional temperature of the relationship has the power in the relationship, without a doubt. Whoever has got their finger on that trigger is the one who's in control. And it doesn't have to be coercive, but it can be very coercive.
Often is. Definitely was in their case, for sure. So tell us where you discovered Anne. How did you get to Our Lady Anne and her works generally?
So it's interesting. So I was a very strange child.
Wait a minute. That's the title of this episode, by the way. I was a very strange child. I think that's basically all of our origin stories.
They called me gifted, but I think that's just a euphemism. But when I was about 13, I was that weird theater kid. I hung out at the indie film section of the Blockbuster on Friday nights.
Nice.
And I discovered a movie called The Crying Game by Neil Jordan. And I ended up loving it. And I just thought it was just a masterpiece of cinema. And I talked everyone was like, Jurassic Park. What about the dinosaurs? And I was like, but have you watched this Irish movie called The Crying Game? And the blank stares I got was, memorable. But I remember seeing the trailer for Interview with the Vampire and being like, oh, this is the same guy. And this is vampires. What is this about? And I honestly didn't really know. I've heard of Anne Rice, but I hadn't read the books or anything.
Just barely,
yeah. My horror was Stephen King. Like I was like all about everything Stephen King. So I was really intrigued by it and I wanted to read the book. So I got the book and read it, fell in love with it. Movie came out, was obsessed about it, continued to write the books. And then I found this guy right here. This is the edition from my high school days.
That's the one that I had too. I love it.
Yeah. A friend got that for me, which was super cool. I was like, I wish I still had it. And it's, torn apart and everything with love. And after that was it. I was everything was Lestat, vampires. I had this universe that was just, I was a big geek anyway. I was into Star Wars and all that. So I was just like, I loved the whole Immortal universe that she created. I just fell in love with this guy that I was like, saw a lot of myself in him, being someone that loved the arts and, like again, as a theater kid, cried a lot.
Yes. An emotional overconfident and yet has a hole in our heart, we're all Tinkerbells. I don't literally, not just because you align or appreciate Lestat does not mean that you're a Tinkerbell, but an alarming number of us that call Lestat our favorite are in fact Tinkerbells that need those words of affirmation more often than we ever get them.
Absolutely.
Doesn't anyone appreciate how wonderful we are, Bran?
Nobody gets it. And I was a queer kid when I didn't really understand what being a queer kid was too. So it spoke to me so much. And I immediately was like, it's so funny because I found these old journals from those days and these excerpts of where I'm writing about how I just wish Lestat would come and just take me away. And I know they're real, make me immortal. And, just sliding right into that delusion. But I loved it. It was great.
I don't know that I ever thought to myself, yes, I will go to New Orleans and he'll scoop me up. But I always on the periphery of my mind thought it is entirely possible that Anne knows a secret that the rest of us don't know. Right. And she's getting these stories funneled, right? Exactly. It really did feel, which is why the line that Lestat says about, books hold one hope, that you open their pages and fall into them and thus be saved. Yeah, man. And so many of us were living, and it doesn't have to be the young queer kid that doesn't exactly have the language to describe what they're feeling, but that is also a common one. But it's like a child of addiction or a child of divorce or just like a really nerdy sciencey kid in a town that overlooks those awards and everybody's jocks. It's whatever made us feel alone in our bedroom when we were 12 and 13. And it turns out basically everybody felt alone in their bedroom when they were 12 or 13. So it's a very appealing story that he's telling here,
Yeah. And that part in Queen of the Damned, near the beginning where Lestat's talking about how, he misses the fame and he wants that young girl to be like wanting him and beg for him to come. And I remember reading that and being like, oh shit, I think that's me. I think I'm that person. I'm right here.
Jane, tell us first of all, when did you discover Anne Rice and what was your intro into her work? Some of the folks that we've spoken to previously have talked about maybe they don't have a story where like an aunt introduced them like I did, but it's like, hey, I was reading this book and then a cousin suggested Stephen King. And then that led me to, because I was in a bookshop and they were beside each other on the shelf or something like that. So how did you find Anne?
Well, I was, it would have been, I think 1977. I was 18 and I was really into, all things vampires. A couple of years before that, I think I discovered Dark Shadows. It was airing on ITV, our commercial channel here, at something like 11 p.m. every Friday night. And I found that and also found some of the books. And it was actually my grandmother who said, oh, I think you'd like this, and gave me her copy. She was, in a way, pretty amazing. And she took me to see The Exorcist when I think I was 13, 14, way below the age I should have seen it. So I read Interview then.
It's so interesting, though, the segue from Dark Shadows as one of your ends. Have you watched my Dark Shadows reactions?
Some of them, yeah. It really takes me.
I'm not to the good stuff yet.
No Barnabas yet. Oh, I had a massive Barnabas crush when I was about 15, 16.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute, though. We were supposed to talk about Anne Rice with this woman. Hello, Jolie.
Oh, hi. Hi.
Okay, so first off, let's start here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And we haven't done like this in depth with anybody because like who wants to share their private lives like Ashley and I do on a weekly basis?
I know, man. We have told a lot of our business to the world.
Yeah. When you podcast, though, that happens. People just kind of know that.
And we're talking about, topics. Those topics are adjacent in the book, so we're kind of like, pulling it into our own lives and
Yeah.
figuring shit
I
out.
mean,
Plus, we just
we
talk out of our asses,
we
Also, I
chose
feel like
specifically to add Midnight Mass, and it was like, hey, this is a show about alcoholism and religious trauma.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Ashley and Joel, let's
Yeah.
unpack.
I'm going to tell you, I can't watch that show because I've listened to you guys talk about it, and there's alcoholism and religion. I think there's I told Joel, I vibe with you guys so much because there is so much that I'm like, yep, same, yep, same, yep, same, yep, same. And
Yep.
so when I think I watched like half of the first episode, and I was like, oh, nope, nope, I am angry. I am angry, angry, angry. I cannot watch this.
I need a break. I need a break.
Yep, I need a break, and this is not it for me.
It'll do it to you. It will do it to you.
But yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you and how you first discovered Our Lady Anne. Let's start there.
Oh, yeah. So my name's Jolie. I live in Indiana, southern Indiana. I am part owner of a distillery. I
That's
own
so
one
awesome.
child, a dog, and 2 cats. I have a husband. I don't own a husband. I was going to say that, and then I was like, no, that's not right.
He may own you in a couple of years,
Yeah. I mean, right. Yeah. I have to go get that real ID. But yeah, I'm a very blue dot in a very red state. We recently said no to the redistricting, so that was good.
Yes.
So that's good. Okay. So I am from southern Indiana, or from Southern California. I was born and raised in LA, a suburb of
Didn't know
LA.
that.
That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. My whole family lives there, so I go back several times a year. Grew up going to Disneyland. I worked at Six
Nice.
Flags. My best friend was in the entertainment department. I have also been in a costume. I got punched in a costume once. That's a different story.
Kicked in the head. I got kicked in the head.
Yeah, I know. So all these stories, I'm like, yes, same. But one of my best friends in high school walked up to me and handed me the Interview with the Vampire book and was like, you need to read this. And I was
That's a
like,
good friend.
okay, good friend. And I read it and I was like, holy shit. Like, I read it. I have fond, actual memories of laying in my bed reading it. You know what I mean? Like, where
Yeah.
my bed was as a kid and all of that.
Yeah.
And then when the whole thing was over, I was like, this is amazing. She goes, hold on. She hands me the Vampire Lestat, and she goes, and I quote, and I will never forget this, Louis a pussy, and hands me the book. She goes, Louis a pussy. You need to read this. And I was like, what? Because like you said the other day, I was sad. We were sad. We loved Louis. We understood him. And then you read Lestat and you're like, what are we doing here?
Yes. Why was I in love with that little sad sack?
Right. Why did I even love him? Because now I'm in love with this guy.
There is a particular gear shift, I think, during adolescence that the little artsy emo kid can either genuinely retreat into themselves and maybe go in the modern age, especially down a dark path, get turned into an incel if you're a dude, especially
Right.
YouTube. YouTube is desperate to turn you into an angry right-wing incel if you're a young man.
So
I
is
am
the
so
stock market.
vigilant with my boys. Oh my God.
Good.
Good. Yeah, we are too.
But the other way that you can go though is like a fucking supremely confident, creative, no matter what your industry and career path might be, right? And Lestat is that gear shift. You are mourning the loss of innocence, and you're questioning like, oh my God, I have dark and dirty thoughts sometimes. Does that mean that I'm going to hell and God hates me and I'm like a blood-sucking fiend? And Lestat's like, no, asshole, it means you get things. Like the world is a savage garden. Drink up, motherfucker. Yeah, anyway, I think when we have an aunt or a cousin or an older brother or whatever it might be that's like, hey, weirdo, you can stay weird, but don't be sad. And that's this book series. Genuinely,
I think that the two is like Interview with a Vampire is all of the things you miss as a human, right? When you think about it, and tend to the first thing that people think is all of the things they would love about being a vampire and how awesome it would be. And this was very much like he had to watch his family die. He couldn't, you know what I mean? It was all of the sad things, and he was really regretting his life. And then the vampire Lestat came along, and he's like, fuck you, it's awesome. You know, even in the show, it was like, why do you do that? Because I love it. Go
Because
drink from a
I
cat
love
if you
it.
want, but I love it. And of course, and why not?
I
You're a
don't say you
vampire.
have to,
I don't say you have to do this.
but I am going to
love
play
it.
with my food.
That's right. That's right.
So okay, how
Yeah.
far in the series have you read now, Derek?
Oh, I started reading the first one, and like you were saying, we just kept messaging about it, and then for like a year straight, probably, I read through all the Vampire Chronicles. So I read them all, including, of course, Pandora.
Oh,
Nice.
I
my
got
girl.
Pandora. It wasn't on the official list there,
Right.
but
It's not on the
Technically, yeah.
official docket, but it is a really good
I think I
add-on.
probably heard y'all talk about it, or I was probably talking with Joel, and Joel's like, you should. Yeah, I've probably said you should read
definitely
this.
add Pandora. You can skip
Yeah,
Vittorio. You didn't read Vittorio, did you?
No, I didn't read. I've never
Yeah,
read.
it's
that
such a
one.
Welcome
strange
to the
book.
club, Derek.
It's such a strange book.
I may
But I
never
did-
read it just to be like, I never read that.
I did read, all the way through the end, all the the last
The Prince Lestat
Lestat
books?
ones and all.
Okay, good.
And, yeah, and then I even I read through all those, and then I went over and read the Wolf Gift ones too. Like we were talking
nice.
about werewolves before. I was like, oh well, she did a couple werewolf books too, and so I went and read those.
Me.
So which book is your favorite so far of all of hers that you've read?
Yeah, I wanted to know this.
Oh, that's I think
It's so hard.
yeah,
It's
it
okay
is.
if you give me like
But-
one and a runner-up too, right?
Yeah.
Like I might go
Yeah.
Prince Lestat, or excuse me, I might go the Vampire Lestat and Tale of the Body Thief. If I was forced to absolutely pick one, I might go 1A.
I think it would have to be the Vampire Lestat. I think that's the one that I've read it twice.
Yeah.
Like I did it the first time through, and then I think one of the times when y'all were going through and reading them again, I did that along with it, and yeah, it's so good, and it just kind of lays the foundation for so much of what the series was, and
Yeah,
it's
rewrites the book, literally. Rewrites the damn book, you know?
Yeah, and it was the one that after being suspicious of this Lestat character in the first book, and being it's the one that makes you like, oh, okay, that's what's going on with this guy. And
Yeah, you understand his motives a lot more too, I don't think he retcons quite as much as I feel like Lestat might in the series, but he definitely, you understand his motivations, and you understand where, like, why a little bit more, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Joel probably pointed this out too. Like if your ex wrote a book about you, it might it might be a little biased, and I think that would be the case for some of mine. I know there's stuff that I've done, but
Yeah.
I don't know if we would both see it the same ways on
No.
everything, of course.
It'd be two very different fucking books. I can tell you for sure. From my personal
can I just say,
experience, two very fucking different books.
I am very thankful to say that none of the exes who would write me dirty like this are literate enough to write a whole novel. So it's not a problem.
Well, I don't fuck dumb people, Joel, so
what I'm saying is I don't fuck anybody that's mean and intelligent. You can't be both.
You can't be both. You can be one or the other. Oh, see, now I definitely have fucked mean smart people.
Mean smart
people.
Oh my goodness. Tell us a little bit about how you first discovered Anne and came to her world and her works.
Sure. So I discovered Interview with the Vampire when I was probably way too young, or maybe I was just the right age for it. I think I was 13 when I read it the first time. I loved Gothic fiction as a kid. I think my first like vampire book was in elementary school, and it was Bunnicula. And I think I read
Yeah.
that maybe second grade or something like that. And just I was absolutely fascinated and loved all things Gothic. And then, of course, I read like Flowers in the Attic. I read it when I was way too young, and that actually scarred me for life. Ashley would really appreciate this. I read it when I was like 9, and that book scared me. Like, I still have not seen the movies because I didn't sleep for like a week after I read that entire book series. And like, we were feral in the 80s. I'm a little bit older than you and Ashley, I think. And so, I mean, nobody was supervising what we were reading or what we were picking up. And so, anyways, I had a love of Gothic horror. It didn't scare me away from it, although I haven't, like I said, watched the movies. But I read it when I was 13, but it didn't really like stick with me. And then I was on a trip in my early 20s, and I was actually in St. Francisville, and I was
Oh,
staying
wow.
in a bed and breakfast. It's a bed and breakfast that Susan Sarandon stayed in when she was filming Dead Man Walking. And anyways, I was there and it was pouring down rain, and I went to a local Walmart to just grab a book to read because I couldn't go anywhere or do anything. It was just pouring. And I was in this old antebellum house, and I found Interview with the Vampire. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a perfect, read. And I hadn't read it since I was 13. And so I picked it up again, and I sat in, this huge, like, 4-poster teaster bed and pulled out this book. And I mean, I just got lost in the prose, and just it was the perfect atmosphere in which to sit and read that book. It almost felt like I was in the story. And I think Anne, because of her prose and the way that she describes things, she makes you feel like you're in that story, in that universe. And it was kind of a magical experience. I know that sounds kind of strange with Interview with a Vampire, but it definitely was. It's so atmospheric, and I just fell in love. And then I read like every single book in the series that I could get my hands on. And so anyways, that's how I came to fall in love with Anne Rice and Interview with a Vampire. It didn't hit me that first time when I was 13, but it definitely did in my early 20s.
I love that story so much. So I did not have exactly that kind of atmospheric experience with any of the books, but I think I've talked about this on the show, but when I went to see the 94 film for the first time, it was opening weekend, definitely. I don't know if it was Friday night or not, but opening weekend, my mom and my aunt took me and my baby sister, I was young enough. She was 2.5 years younger than me.
Why?
I don't know why we took her too. Anyway, she had never read the books or anything, but we all went to this R-rated movie, but we were in an old style movie theater, right? Not the modern stadium seating. It was just the sloped flooring and the thick, incredibly thick red velvet curtains
Carpet,
all the way
curtains,
around,
yeah.
right? And the thick carpet too. And they even had the curtain that pulled up over the screen. Yes. And that was like heavy, like it was red with embossed gold in it, in the thread. And so it just felt like, this is the movie theater that Lestat wants me to see this movie in. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the house that Louis wanted you. If you couldn't go to Divisadero Street, then that's where you needed to be reading Interview.
That's where I needed to be reading. Yeah. And it was pouring down rain. And I mean, I remember reading into the early hours of the morning and not wanting to put that book down. And then waking up the next morning, and it was very gray and cloudy. And I went outside, and there's just it's old house with those, Corinthian columns, and there's live oaks everywhere with the Spanish moss. And it just felt like I was stepping into the pages of that novel. I am an English teacher. And so just her prose, that book is skillfully so beautiful. It's just a masterpiece in terms of prose, and particularly her way of describing setting and making you feel like you're really there. She's a master at creating atmosphere and mood, and that book for me is still the pinnacle of that experience. And I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with how I read it that second time, but it's just special.
Okay. Since you mentioned your credentials there, this is off the script of our regular questions, but I want to get your take on this. Ashley and I both agreed when we did our tier listing recently of the books that Interview is probably her most artful, her most literary novel. It's definitely the one that is most highly regarded as far as scholars and collegiate courses and et cetera, right? More people write treatises on that than they do on any of the other novels.
Yeah.
It's not the best selling. It's not the one that we all call our favorite generally, but it's definitely the most, it seems to be the most literary.
Right now, baby. You can come in. Sorry, that's my son, Sam.
No worries. I've had like 4 text messages from my kiddos.
Now I have the dogs in the room with me, you guys. I'm so sorry, Joel.
Here's what I'm trying to get to, though. I think all the time about musical artists, musicians, songwriters especially, have this phenomenon where the first album that breaks wide, right?
And the sophomore one is tough.
The sophomore one's tough, but people don't understand. They've written that first album for the 15 years that they were touring to get famous and hit. And then the second album they have to write in 6 months, right? To turn around. Okay. With authors, though, I would think that even if you've got like this one great story, the craft of writing should improve. Stephen King should be writing his most literary novels now. Not that his novels now are bad, but like, is anything ever going to rise to The Stand? Is anything ever going to rise to Carrie? Right? Carrie's been remade 17 times. Interview is what we're all agreeing.
He never sticks the landing. Like, I love King, but he, like, those early books, I think that he does. But in the later books, I mean, I think that his endings are really weak. Like, the way that he resolves his stories, it leaves something to be desired, where he doesn't have that in those early books. So, yeah, yeah.
Harper Lee wrote one, right? I mean, it turns out she wrote another one, but we didn't get that until posthumously. I mean, the one is the one that counted, right? She only needed the one. Why is it that authors have that same phenomenon when they're not touring that book for 15 years to get it right and published, right?
Yeah. Well, so I honestly, Joel, I've never thought about this on to be completely transparent, but I do have some thoughts as you're talking. I do have some thoughts. And I think one of those is that their whole lives, they're wanting to do this thing. They're wanting to be a writer. And that first novel, they're putting everything into that novel. And they're not writing it for any other reason other than to explore whatever it is that they're writing, right? They're exploring a theme. They are working out issues or identity or whatever it is that's calling to them. They're not writing for everybody else. They're writing for themselves and probably in the hopes that they're going to get published, that they can make something out of this. But it really is about the art, less so about a paycheck. But I think as you get down the line, you encounter more of, I'm writing this for the paycheck, or I'm writing this to exploit. It's a little bit more calculated and less about the art or the creativity or the passion that's driving you that then, drives you to write that story. I mean, that's just what I'm thinking. I could be totally wrong, but that would be my thoughts.
I think it's a well-informed guess at it. And it is interesting. I mean, it just sort of occurred to me as you were saying it almost, but I'm like, wow, it is weird, but it's true. And it's just like musicians, but they don't have the same excuses as musicians for why that is. It's such a strange phenomenon. All right.
Well, and I think like Interview, she's really exploring depression. And she is really exploring the darkness of the loss of her daughter and the loss of her faith and what all of this means. And Louis is really that foil to her, right? I mean, she is exploring all of those things through that character. And I think that you get close to that with Memnoch. She is exploring those kinds of issues with Memnoch. And then I think at other times, she's just telling a good yarn. And I mean, and I'm like you guys, Lestat's my favorite character. I love him. And I think part of why he's so fun is because at the end of the day, he's like, fuck it, like this is what I've been given. So I'm going to live this. I mean, like, this is my life. I don't know what else to tell you people. I'm going to live my life, and I think that Anne probably had several of those revelations along the way, right? Like, but that is that character. He is that sort of id character that comes out and he's like, well, this is what I've been given, so I'm going to make, the best of it.
Tell everybody a little bit about how you first discovered Anne and came to her works.
So I was 5 years old. Um, I was 5 years old sitting in the living room floor watching a Blockbuster rental of Interview with the Vampire when it first came out. And the scene where she slits his throat and the blood is pouring out and she just calls to Louis to lift her so it doesn't dirty her dainty little shoes. As a 5-year-old, that stuck with me so much, and this was the character that I first identified with, was from the perspective of Claudia, and it seared in my brain. And I asked after that movie, I wanted to see it all the time, and of course this was Blockbuster rental era, so unless you own it, but I would ask for it as often as I could and want to know what I could about what was this magical, dark, bloody thing that stuck with me so much. And then as not even a teenager yet, actually, it would have been 2001 when I was 11. The announcement for the Queen of the Damned movie came out, and I clipped every Rolling Stone interview and just anything in the newspaper. I was just collecting all the information I could get about it. And my father took me to see it that I think it was February when it came out because I had just turned 12. And new goth, new metal, like 12 years old, like that was, for me, that was the pinnacle. And I know we all like joke about it now and tease and kind of poo-poo on it, but like the music, the imagery, like everything was just so, it felt like this is my soul. And reattaching it to the movie that I longed after so much, The Child. My family got me the paperback copy of Interview with the Vampire and the Vampire Lestat. And then by that Christmas, I took my Walmart gift card, and I have a little show and tell. I went and bought the Queen of the Damned film paperback. And believe it or not, this still has the original receipt from the day after Christmas that I bought this book at 12 years old.
I love it.
And I mean, the spine is so worn. I've read it obsessively. And from there, it just continued. And because of my fundamentalist Pentecostal background and upbringing, these were very taboo. This was something that was very regulated. I was not allowed to talk to certain people or consume certain things. Like what I was exposed to as a child was now forbidden because she might not know what's real. And so it became something that I sought after in the shady, literally this wonderful neighbor down the street from my house as a child had like hearses and the coolest Halloween decorations, and like, you're not, don't ever speak to them. But like I'd ride my bike around the neighborhood and go hang out in their driveway and talk to them. And she gave me my first copy of The Tale of the Body Thief and Memnoch the Devil. And Memnoch the Devil, at probably 14 years old, was the first time I had ever saw someone ask the same questions about God that I had, and challenge God the way that my child's brain was doing. And I think Catholicism had a lot to do with that. I found my father's Catholic Bible at a preteen age and learned, oh, there's more books. There's more.
Huh.
Because there are more in the Catholic Bible than the King James Version that are taught. And so just that hunger that I had for knowledge, for the world, for religion, for anything that I could have, like, Anne filled so many of those corners for me. And then, as so many others have expressed, made me feel like I wasn't alone in a world where asking these questions was severely punished.
Yeah. Boy, that is, yes, asking the very questions was severely punished. That is such a good way to put it, Kayla. What is it called? Is it the Apocrypha? Is that how they're referred to? It's like 3 extra books in the Catholic Bible, I think.
It's 4, but yes, I think that's correct. I do think it's 4.
Yeah, there you go. 4 books. Okay. Questioning God. Boy, that's such a great way to put it. And I want to expound on that for a moment, because I was raised fundamentalist. And while my media intake was not policed in the same way that yours was, I did hear those, well, you could never play Dungeons and Dragons because that's of the
Big
devil kind
time.
of thing. My
Yeah.
father would complain about Buffy the Vampire Slayer if it was on in the living room, for instance, right? Now, we could all watch Die Hard as a family when my sister and I were like 4 and 6. My father and I watched the first Predator film in my bedroom on a 13-inch TV on a VCR. I was 6 or 7 years old when we watched that together. So like, I don't know why the vampire stuff and the idea of the occult was so different than the violence, but it was. You're right. However, while my media intake wasn't policed in that same way, the idea of questioning authority or the theological concepts was very much enforced. I remember as a very, very small child, my father trying to explain to me the concept of salvation and, why Satan was in the wrong or something like that, et cetera, et cetera. And the allusions, the metaphors that I could draw and the connections that I could draw, I was trying to say, oh, I get it. And I was using He-Man and Skeletor as an example of how I understood the battle that he was describing, right?
Sure.
And I just remember his frustration with, no, it's nothing like that. And I'm like, yeah, but it sort of is though. Like, these are stories and there's a purpose to the story. There's a meaning behind the story. But like, you're just telling me another story that is a morality tale in some fashion. And how is this any different? Memnoch, though, in particular, the way that the character of Memnoch, and I've had a little bit of this discussion with another one of our patrons, so this will fit well. Memnoch does this great thing where he makes the case to Lestat that it's an absent-minded, not an absent-minded exactly. It's like an unfocused God. That's the problem. God's not evil. He just didn't follow through on what he was doing and didn't care about it. So in my upbringing, the specific thing that drew this problem for me was the question of same-sex relationships. I had friends from a fairly young age that were openly gay. I had more friends that were closeted gay people, and 2 of 1, I found these people to be some of the best human beings that I knew. Loving, caring, generous to a fault, benevolent in all of their actions, unwilling to do harm or damage or any aggression towards anybody, basically. And so the idea that I could love these people and accept them for who they are, and yet God couldn't. I had a real problem with the idea that I was more forgiving than God, and I didn't understand how to square that circle. I feel like Memnoch makes that same case, basically. He's like, we're all more forgiving than God is, and we got to fix this.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can second that from personal experience multiple times over, especially as I got into teenage years. Yeah. Sexuality and the fear of my sexuality from my mother more so was a huge reason to try to shut down and police what I consumed. Like, maybe we can just like quiet the queer away, but it's surprise. But yeah, that very concept that Memnoch brought of, like you said, forgetful. He just sort of stepped away. He stopped caring so much, and but also the control. It's very relatable in the way that I grew up with my father. That's like, no, I'm going to control every aspect of your life, but I also am not going to care in the right places to boost you up. But
not provide
Memnoch,
resources or a learning system or explain the rules to you, but still hold them accountable, hold you accountable for them, et cetera,
very
right?
much,
Like,
very
what
much.
are you doing?
Yeah, yeah. And it was. I mean, it was honestly, it was very contradictory because like so much of what my father taught me was a love for the world. He did expose me to art, to vampires, to all of this stuff that my mother like very much tried to shut down. but he did give a lot of that love for the darkness, for the hunger of the world, talking about his travels in his youth and everything. Like, I found that through Anne's works as well, like my hunger for the world and all of the things that I wanted to see and experience was because of how beautiful she painted it. And it very much showed me that, like, there is so much more to the world than these country walls and hate.
Boy. Yes, there is so much more to the world. That's that. I mean, hey, and look, Lestat was doing it a world away from where you and I were growing up. But that's Lestat's story in The Vampire Lestat, effectively, right? Like, he's locked in this dilapidated castle with a ignorant father and bumbling idiot brothers who all hate the very idea of knowledge, let alone the fact that they don't have any. And then he's curious. He's just curious and an artsy kid who also happens to be queer and is sort of discovering that at the same time. And they don't like any of it. They don't like any of it, you know? And it's a bummer, man. But so his journey and his like escape into freedom and then eventually infamy and fame and immortality, like, it was all of us trying to see, like, I don't know, is there something other than these country walls, as you say? Like,
Yeah,
that's it, man.
country walls and hate. Oh man, yeah, country wall. Just imagine the old wood planked walls.
So we didn't have wood planks, but I did have wood paneling in my bedroom where I grew up in. I think about that very much. I had that 80s wood paneling, 70s wood paneling, I guess, really.
Atrocious. Lestat could never.
No, he could never. So what was it to you in particular about vampires that was so alluring? I think there are so many aspects to the vampire myth, and you know, Patrick Garone mentioned earlier that he was really enamored with Lestat and Louis in particular because they didn't need an invitation to get in anywhere, and they weren't worried about crosses or church barriers, etc. What is it about vampires that you dug, especially as a young woman?
Honestly, originally, I don't really know. And I think I just liked all that stuff. Stephen King, Salem's Lot, Dracula. I think just everything like that. As I said, interview initially, when I first read it, I wasn't totally bowled over, to be honest. I enjoyed it, but the real then, I mean, a few years later, when it was published, The Vampire Lestat, and from that point, I was just totally hooked, completely. And from that point on, I was reading the books as they came out.
What was it like when, I don't think we've talked to anybody on the show before about when The Vampire Lestat came out that was already into the fandom at that point. There are members of our group that were reading before that. But was there any buzz about The Vampire Lestat? I know I've heard people talk about when Queen of the Damned was coming out, it was a big deal. But that's because The Vampire Lestat had already been a bit of a hit. But I think that was kind of a slow roll, wasn't it?
I think it was. I mean, I saw it. It must have been round about the time it was published, but I didn't see, I mean, no publicity or anything. I just saw it in a bookshop and thought, oh, right. Oh, that must be the next one. Oh, well, I'll give it a try. Queen of the Damned, I remember a lot. There was definitely a buzz at that point, definitely. And
it's like out in the front of the bookstore and display. Yeah.
And I knew it was coming, so there must have been some coverage before it was published.
I got one more question for you before we move on. How did you find us? How did you discover us when you first joined the Coven?
I think I was just searching in the podcast store thing for Interview with a Vampire, and then they had something else that popped up, but it was just sycophants. Oh, it wasn't. It was Mayfair, actually. And it was just these people that just praised everything, and I was gagging in my car.
Well, you
and then
need
I
to
found
find
you guys
us then, babe.
Yeah, and then your name. I'm like, why would no one else like take this name? I mean, it's genius, and thank God you guys got it.
Thank you.
But it was like, as soon as I saw the name, I'm like, yeah, they know what they're talking about. They've actually read a book, so. Yeah.
When I got the domain name, so like Anne announced that she had gotten the rights. This was in 2017, I think. And then I talked to Kelly and I was like, I got to start a show. I posted on Facebook, hey, does anybody like Anne Rice and would they maybe be interested in doing a podcast? And Ashley was literally the first comment. I think 2 or 3 other people commented eventually, but Ashley was the first one. And I was like, oh, Ashley's, first of all, Ashley was a woman. And I was like, good, that'd be good not to have 2 dudes just talking to each other. And Ashley had a theater background. And Ashley, it's so funny in retrospect because like Ashley and I's time together in college was so brief compared to our time together on this show now.
I know,
but
it's like, so wild. But
we mostly know each other from this podcast.
We
always had fun.
A good time.
No, 100%. And I just knew that she would bring like a verve and a vitality to the show. But I'm fairly certain that you and I came up with Articulate Coven together. I had 2 or 3 ideas, but I'm fairly certain that you helped me like lock in on that. And then when I got the domain name, I was like, oh, well, fuck off. If anybody else starts it now, they won't have as good a branding as we do anyway. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if I've ever even mentioned this on the show specifically, but I had this weird deal at the time. I was technically in like a creator program with a company called, what was there even? Kelly, do you remember the name of the company that Pod Vader worked for that I was doing podcasts with at the time? Blogspot, right? No, not Blogspot.
Oh, wow.
Blog Talk. Blog Talk Radio was the name of the company. Okay. So I had a buddy who had left ESPN. He was like he's the guy that started all of their podcasts basically. And then he was working for this company as an executive called Blog Talk Radio. And he was like, hey, you should bring your podcasts over to ours and we'll host you for free and you'll do ad revenue shares or blah, 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 whatever. And we had small audiences at the time and I was not a big deal. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And he was a nice guy and like a big deal in the industry. And so when we started this show, I still had that deal with him. So they hired someone to make our logo and paid for our Articulate Coven logo. So the decent graphic imagery that we've always been using is because I had a weird podcast deal at the time.
I love it. It's so cute. I love our logo.
It's a good logo.
Look at it on Derek. He's precious little angel.
Oh, man. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That is actually just part 1 of our conversation with our patrons, our children of the Millenia, especially. Those are the ones that are being featured in this episode. But I've broken it into 2. So if you're a patron for Christmas Day, you're going to get another piece of this episode. And don't be looking for an afterlife after this because that segment will come for patrons only, paid patrons only, after the end of part 2. All right, everybody. Again, happy holidays and stay tuned because we got more coming.
Thank you for sharing this time with the Articulate Coven. Support the show as either a free or paid member at articulatecoven.com/join. You can also find us on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Find more from the Coven with our sister show, Flan Again, covering the works of Mike Flanagan.